everybody, and we're back, doing a reaction video to the college football playoff committee rankings, and then we also got a week 9 prediction video that we're going to do for the college football. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into it, and then I will put the slides up for everybody to do it. So real quick, they just released their top 25. A big surprise for some, big surprise not for all. Especially for 1 through 6, we'll definitely get into that. But we're gonna really do the top 10. I'll put it up for we're gonna look at the top 25, but we're really gonna just dive into the top 10 and really get some dissecting at these teams. All right, so coming in at number 10 is LSU. Big surprise for me, especially based off how LSU performed against Tennessee and how they perform against Florida State. But those are the only 2 losses. It's to Tennessee and Florida State. LSU didn't look good at all against Florida State. They couldn't stop the run. Their defense was suspect. They were hit and miss all over the place. Unsportsmanlike, penalties, offsides, everything came down to a field goal kick, and it came down to they could have won it. Just, crazy stuff. And then, turn around in the other games that they end up playing and other teams that they end up beating, they end up beating Southern, which is, HBCU school, which, all right, you predicted to beat them. End up beating Mississippi State, end up beating New Mexico State, end up beating Auburn, which Auburn just recently fired their head coach. Auburn, is a team that they should have beat. These are teams they should have won. And then end up having Tennessee come in town and then just blow them out the park 40-13, which, Tennessee at the time was ranked number 8, but we'll definitely get into the rankings of where they at. And then, they end up beating up on Florida, and then they also beat Ole Miss. So overall, LSU did a good bounce back, especially off of the expectations what everybody has for them for this first year for Brian Kelly and his staff. Jaden Daniels, he's doing his thing. He was a transfer from Arizona State under Herm Edwards at the time, and he did very good at Arizona State. There was a time where they knocked off Oregon that was being manned by Justin Herbert before he went to the NFL. He knocked off Justin Herbert, and the Oregon Ducks at that time. Surprise, big surprise. That was opportunity for Oregon to make the playoffs, and that loss just really just took the momentum out the air for them with that loss that they took to Arizona State. So Jaden Daniels is a very experienced guy. And they also got Keyshawn Boutte, who's doing his thing, which, they need to get him more involved. LSU's defense isn't bad. They got Bijan Ojulari, the brother of the Georgia edge rusher that got drafted to the Giants. They also got some good secondaries back there, Major Burns. They got a lot of good pieces. It's just that, they're working to get together and they're working to improve because this is Brian Kelly's first year. But LSU at number 10, which is still a surprise to me, especially with them being ahead of Ole Miss and UCLA. I know UCLA lost a tough game to Oregon, but I will put UCLA ahead of LSU just based off the body of work that LSU that UCLA done. UCLA was just manhandling everybody until they came across Oregon, and Oregon is not a bad team. I've said this in plenty of videos that Oregon is a good defense, a good defensive team. Bo Nix is good as long as Bo Nix isn't doing Bo Nix dumb stuff. Bo Nix is still a good quarterback. They got good wide receivers. Franklin's a good wide receiver. So Oregon is good. But I wouldn't have LSU ahead of UCLA. And I definitely wouldn't have them up against Ole Miss. So to see this, I'm shocked, but, that's a committee. They look at it differently. They look at strength of schedule, look how they perform, and you go from there. Florida State isn't ranked, so I don't know. But who am I? Tennessee is ranked. I guess that right there is justifying. But for me, I would have UCLA. I will swap UCLA, LSU. But let's move on to number 9. Number 9 came in at USC, which I don't have nothing wrong with that. Look, yeah, like with Williams, with Jaden Addison, with all the pieces that they got on offense, Die from Oregon, the running back that they got. Look, UCLA is doing good. UCLA is doing great. Yes, they had a drop game against Utah, but they only lost by 1 point, 42-43. It came down to a wire. So I don't see nothing wrong with USC being at this point. Maybe you can put them, you can flip flop them with Oregon based off of what the performance Oregon did against Georgia with that big blowout. You could flip flop them between that. We'll get into Oregon with their next ranking, but USC overall did their thing. They've had a tight game against Oregon State. You're playing at Oregon State at night. Okay, that's gonna be tough. You gotta understand people. Playing football on the road in a hostile environment like Oregon State at night just isn't an ideal place to play. It's just like folks want to go play LSU. You don't want to play LSU at night. That's just a no-no. There's just there's just some places you don't want to go to play, and that's LSU at night. Same thing with Penn State. You don't want to play Penn State when they do whiteout. It's a very tough environment. It gets to those kids, but USC did their thing. Right off the bat, they beat Rice 66 to 14. They manhandled Stanford. They did a thing against Fresno State. They had a close game against Oregon State, which they only beat them by 3 points. Then they manhandled Arizona State. Did their thing against Washington State. The only loss that they really took was USC. And then they kind of had a little back and forth with Arizona, but they still won that game. Their next game is Cal. They'll win it. After Cal, they got Colorado. They'll win it. So putting USC at number 9 is good. I mean, USC just might can make their way into the playoffs, depending on how all the other teams up front. Because remember, the teams that's ranked in the top 6, especially the top 4, somebody's got to lose, and somebody's not going to go undefeated this whole season or just lose one game. It's going to be tough. So it's going to be real tough. So yeah, I just had a call come through, but USC, they're going to do their thing. They're going to make sure everything works out for them. They're going to continue doing. Lincoln Riley's going to have them in the best spot possibly for that offense. It's really going to come down to their defense. Alex Grinch is still there. It's still there. How can I say this? Their defensive coordinator who's been there for them. So he's still going to be there. He was at Oklahoma. He's going to be there at USC. So he's there. It's just about, can that defense turn around? And they still have the same defensive players that they had before Lincoln Riley got there. The transfer portal did good for Lincoln Riley, and he used that advantage for his offense. So the offense looks great. But USC coming at number 9, there's nothing wrong with it. Keep it up, USC. You might just find yourself in the playoffs, depending on the rest of the teams ahead of you. The one team ahead of you, Oregon. This is what I was talking about. Oregon, in my opinion, should be number 9. Let's take USC, put USC at number 8. Oregon is good. Got the good defense. Their only loss that they had was the only loss in the beginning of the season, which was 49-3. To me, if we're looking at strength of schedule, we're looking at based off how they perform, that game right there should definitely be a knock against them. I wouldn't have them at number 8 or number 9. I would probably have them at 10. That's why I say you really got to, if the committee's looking at body of work, we got to really look at some body of work, because Oregon has done very well in their last rest of their games. They had a tight one against Washington State, but they did good against the rest of them. They really just manhandled UCLA. I know the score with UCLA was 45-30, but if you really watch that game, Oregon had their way, running it defensively, shutting down UCLA quarterback. Dorian Thompson did his thing, but they shut him down. Same thing with the wide receivers. Oregon contained the running game. The Oregon game for USC didn't get started until late in the fourth quarter, and by that time, Oregon was far ahead. So it really didn't matter. I just still feel as if that loss to Georgia shouldn't have them so high at number 8, but the committee sees something else. Yes, they lost to a ranked team, Georgia, that was ranked, I believe, number 2 at the time that came into the season, or number 3. But Oregon, Oregon has a correction. There was 3. Georgia was ranked number 3, but Oregon, we're gonna see what they do, because the next games is, I'm not gonna say they're tough and they're hard, but Oregon is gonna have a lot to prove. They're gonna travel to Colorado. They should win that one. Colorado's 1-7. Colorado don't have anything. I mean, I think Colorado's about to fire their head coach, who's only been there but 2 years. I think he was a replacement for Mel Tucker. So it's just really, how's Oregon gonna handle against Washington, how they gonna perform against Utah, and how they gonna do going to Oregon State. Because they got to go to Oregon State the same time that USC did. That might be a team that just knocks Oregon out the playoff picture. But let's keep it moving on. Number 7, TCU. Look, I know a lot of people are asking the committee about this. Like, TCU, and this is my opinion, should be ahead of Alabama. And we'll get into Alabama. But TCU should definitely be ahead of Alabama if we're looking at the body of work. if we're looking at the body of work, people, like TCU has been doing their thing since SMU. Oklahoma, they dominated Oklahoma. Kansas, they had a good shootout with Kansas, but they put Kansas in their space, in their place. Oklahoma State, they were down by Oklahoma State, came back and won that game. Kansas State, they manhandled Kansas State, and Kansas State is a good team, yeah. Kansas State is a real good team, but they still manhandled Kansas State. Went to West Virginia and did their thing. Like TCU has been doing very well, and they're still undefeated. Like they haven't lost any game. They haven't lost not one game, and they're undefeated. They're 8-0, and they're behind Alabama at number 7, which is just and they beat ranked teams. If I'm looking at their schedule, they beat 1, 2, 3 ranked teams. TCU beat 3 ranked teams. 2 of them soundly. The other one had to come back and win adversity, and they did that. You know what I'm saying? Hell, TCU's running back is nasty. If y'all don't, just go look at him. Go look at his game. He's doing his thing. Duggan is doing his thing. The head coach is his first year there. He's doing his thing. So the Horn Frogs are doing their thing. Like y'all got to put more respect on TCU because offensively they're hanging with a lot of people. Now defense there's a lot of questions going on for defense for TCU, and TCU no, they don't have the best defense in the country. I get it. I understand, but the point of the matter is that if you look at the resume, you look at the body of work, TCU has been doing a lot of things that a lot of teams that's in front of them haven't done. And we're going to get in front of those teams. But congratulations, Tennessee. You come in at number 7. Alabama, roll tide. All right, y'all. So Alabama's coming in number 6, which, again, like I said previously about TCU, flip-flop Alabama and TCU. I wouldn't push them down no further than that. I wouldn't put them behind Oregon because if you have Alabama play Oregon out, Alabama will win that one. But Alabama, they had they've had a lot of close games. Well, I ain't gonna say a lot, but they've had some close. They've had 3 very close games, but 2 of them where they struggle, all against teams with the start with the letter T. So Alabama beat Utah State, which everybody expected. Then the second week they had to go to Texas. Look this game right here, and this is just a big what if. But if Quinn Ewers didn't get injured, would have Texas won that game? And you got to remember, y'all, when Alabama was playing against Texas and Quinn Ewers and that offense and Worthy and that Texas defense was coming in, especially that front 4. Hell, the front 7 was doing their thing. And Quinn Ewers got hurt. The backup quarterback comes in and he got hurt. They were still struggling to put Texas away with the second string quarterback that was limping. Keep that in mind. Yeah, the Alabama struggled against the second team quarterback that was limping, and they couldn't put him away, and he was still getting balls passed, thrown to the wide receivers, tight ends, running back, still doing his thing. So, that's a questionable game. Good thing they had Bryce Young. They ain't no telling what would have happened if the backup quarterback would have came in for Alabama. And Alabama did their thing against everybody else. Same thing against Arkansas until they ran to Texas A&M, and they went down the wire with Texas A&M. And this is another thing with Alabama. They go into these wires with these teams, and they're struggling. And this is when Texas A&M came to Alabama, and they still struggle against Texas A&M, a Texas A&M team that's just all over the place right now. Players getting suspended for doing stuff in locker rooms. Texas A&M don't know what quarterback they want to be the starter. They don't absolutely know. They went with Haynes King, then Max Johnson, then Haynes King, and then Max Johnson got hurt, so went back to Haynes King. Then they put this other freshman in, and everybody's hoorahing about him, and it's like, all right, that's fine and dandy, y'all, but what's going on? In Alabama, again, defenses struggle time and time, putting teams away, and here you go. It's the same thing when they played against Arkansas. They let Arkansas get close in that game, and almost became a nail biter for those Alabama team, for the Alabama team when they played Arkansas. The Sad Pittman team almost beat them. They could have beat them. It's just a lot of mistakes happened for Arkansas, and then you move on to when after they got done playing Texas A&M, they had to travel to Tennessee, and we all know how that game turned out to be. It came down to the wire. Their field goal, Alabama field goal kicker missed the field goal, and the Tennessee field goal kicker he kicked a knuckleball that barely got over the pole. So, Alabama, Putting them at number 6, okay, it's Alabama. Let's just give them that ranking position because they're Alabama. But me personally, Alabama will be ranked number 7. That's just me. I will put Alabama in number 7 based off how they perform against the teams that they perform. You know, Texas wasn't even ranked at the time when they played them in week 2 and they struggled. The only really ranked teams that they really beat was one, which is Arkansas. Oh, and Mississippi State. So they beat Arkansas, Mississippi State. And that's it. But they struggle against 3 teams, struggle bad, 2 of which weren't ranked. One of them, which is going through a disaster with Jimbo Fisher. They got lucky that it's a good thing that Alabama has Bryce Young, because if they didn't have Bryce Young, they probably would have been blown out by Tennessee and lost to Texas, and most likely probably lost to Texas A&M. So, but kudos Alabama for what you've done. You got going on. You're ranked number 6. Your schedule is pretty easy and simple. You shouldn't have nothing else to worry about. They got to go play LSU at LSU, but it's a night game. Here we go. So this is the thing, you got to be careful playing LSU at night. So that's a game I'm definitely going to watch. I get into that when I start getting into my week 9 game predictions for the top, teams that's playing over the weekend, this weekend. But they got to travel to LSU. Then they got to go to Ole Miss, and then they finish off with Austin Peay and Auburn. So those last 2 games, Austin Peay and Auburn, they should win. These next two games are going to determine if they get to go to the SEC championship or not, and whoever they face over there between Georgia and Tennessee. But let's move on to the beef and the potatoes. All right, so coming in number 5 is Michigan. Look, all big Michigan fans, I want to say one thing. I am sorry that they got you at number 5 behind Clemson. Nothing is wrong with Michigan. There is absolutely nothing wrong with Michigan. If they're putting Clemson ahead of Michigan for whatever reason, and if it's because Michigan hasn't really played any ranked teams until Penn State, okay, that's fine. But if you're going to have Ohio State there, which we're going to get into Ohio State, but not Michigan ahead of Clemson, man, the playoff committee, I don't know what they're looking at. It's either they're ranking this for a setup to all the teams that's up ahead just to bring them back down, or they just looking at stuff different. Because if you're looking at the body of work, Michigan has been dominating teams, even if the teams aren't ranked, been dominating them the way you're supposed to. Colorado State blew them out the park. Hawaii blew them out the park. UConn blew them out the park. Maryland blew them out the park. Iowa got a little tight in the first half and then just ran away with it. Indiana blew them out the park. Penn State, the score says one thing, 41-17, but that game was take away that interception, that'll head bounce around when they bounce off the person's head, and it would have been 41-10. 41-10. That's the score. Take that interception away, it's 41-10. Penn State, yeah, okay, so they beat a Penn State team, and that was it. That was when they ranking. That's fine. But to put them behind Clemson, which we're going to get into Clemson, because Clemson is good in their own rights, but we're going to get into Clemson. To put Michigan, Jim Harbaugh's team behind Clemson, where Michigan has a far better running game. Corman, Edwards, J.J. McCarthy is making better decisions with the ball. The defense, even with the loss of Ojobo and Hutchinson, the defense looking like they have not shaken or scared of nothing. Secondary is not the best, but they're good. Their passing game for Michigan is not the best. They don't have the most elite wide receivers, which they didn't have last year, and they were still doing the same thing that they're doing this year. Clemson is still getting the job done. It's just like how UCLA was when they were going to run until they lost to Oregon, still getting the job done. Me personally, this is a shock to me that Clemson is ahead of Michigan. Clemson should not be ahead of Michigan. Clemson should not be ahead of Alabama. Well, you can probably flip those two around. Don't really know who should be 6 and 7 between those two, but Clemson should not be where they at. Now, granted, Clemson might have played more ranked teams, and if that's what we're going based off, okay. But if we're looking at the body of work and how each team performed, give me Michigan any day. But congratulations, Michigan at number 5. Let's move into Clemson. So Clemson at number 4. Boy, this is a surprise to me, and man, I don't know what to say about this, because I know if anybody watched the game when Clemson was playing against Georgia Tech, that first game of the season, if anybody knows, DJ didn't look right. And The only reason why that game was still where it was at because Clemson's defense, as always, with Dabo Sweeney, is elite. Their defense has been keeping them in games and keeping them stout in games. DJ has not. And don't get me wrong. DJ, yes, I know he came out a 5-star, but at this point, is he playing like a 5-star? And that's the biggest question. That is the biggest question. So had to keep getting the phone call, but that's going to be the biggest question: is DJ playing like an elite player? We don't know. Clearly, he's not looking like it. But it's the same thing. Like when they play Louisiana Tech, did he look good? When they play Wake Forest, that went into 2 overtimes when they played Wake Forest, and Wake Forest just got their doors blown off by Louisville this past week. And in North Carolina State, yeah, it 30-20, okay, but that game didn't show like these scores. If you look at Clemson scores, the committee must not be looking at these. The committee must not be seeing none of these games, because if you look at Clemson scores, yes, it says one thing, but the performance that I saw on the field, it's not going to get them past Ohio State. It'll barely get them past Alabama. It'll barely. I mean, hell, you can have them play UCLA right now. That'd be a dangerous game. You can have Clemson play Oregon right now. That'd be a dangerous game. And the question is, how much can a defense take? It can bail them out. Yeah, they got depth at the defense, but how much can they bail them out? You have them play at Tennessee right now. Huh. The way Tennessee flying around that ball, I don't know. Hey, you can have Clemson play Georgia right now. If you have Clemson play this same Georgia that they play this year, and let Clemson play them, the score that you saw last year in the opening game against Clemson would not be the same. It would definitely not be the same. It'll be Georgia way far. It won't be no 10-3. I can promise you that. It won't be a defensive shootout. It'll be definitely, we're going to put up some points and we're going to stop you from putting up points. But even when Clemson played Florida State, that was closer than what it was. North Carolina State, closer than what it was. Syracuse had them on the ropes. They had to bench DJ and put the freshman in, and he barely did anything. So Clemson, yes, congratulations, you're at number 4. Are you going to be at number 4, and how long are you going to hold that number 4? That's the question. Yes, you're going to Notre Dame. Yes, you're playing against Notre Dame in Notre Dame. Is Notre Dame good this year? Hell no. We've seen it. They lost to Marshall. We've seen how they struggle against a lot of teams. But Notre Dame is starting to get back on a winning streak. Then you got Louisville coming to town. We just saw what they did to Wake Forest. So Louisville is feeling good. Let Louisville win their next 2 games, and then when they got to play you, it's going to be trouble. And then you finish off with Miami and South Carolina. Those last 2 games, you should win. You will win. It's not you should. You will win. It's going to be these next 2 games. Are you ready for the challenge? And when you play the challenge, can you win the game? Or is it going to be one of those situations you lose a game because of poor quarterback play? And that's remember, like, Will Shipley isn't wall in the world. He's doing some things to keep him in the game, but he isn't wall in the world. He isn't no Corman. He isn't no Vaughn. He isn't doing what Charbonnet doing at UCLA. He isn't doing that. He's barely even doing what Smalls is doing at Tennessee. So Clemson at number 4 is a big shock to me. I'm really surprised. I'm very surprised about this, and I don't know what to say. This one is a shock. Like, Clemson should not be ahead of Michigan. I'm putting this out here now. Clemson should not be ahead of Michigan. They should not. They don't look like the number 4 team in the country. They just don't. But because they have more wins over ranked teams, that's what really got them in there. And that's pretty much it. They beat Wake Forest, they beat North Carolina State, and they beat Syracuse. So they got three wins over ranked teams. But congratulations. All right, let's move in. Georgia Bulldogs coming in at number 3. My dogs. This weekend is going to prove it or lose it. Look, and I want to start off with Georgia, first game of the season, magnificent. Second game of the season, awesome. And they barely even tried to play that game. Then they went to South Carolina, into South Carolina. Then they played Kent State and started playing around with their food. Started just, I don't play it. It just didn't get up. It was a 12 o'clock noon game. Didn't show up and started BSing around. And then they had to travel to Missouri at a night game. And this is what I'm talking about, folks. These night games, the travel games where it takes a long time to get started, late at night, where your energy levels start to decrease. Now you got to try to pick it back up. Georgia was on the ropes. Georgia was on the ropes getting manhandled. Missouri, and I'm a Georgia fan, and I watched that game. Missouri was doing their thing. And I mean, they were just doing their thing, either running the ball or passing the ball. And it wasn't like they was, lighting them up. They were just doing a good thing. It wasn't, the score wasn't high. They were just doing their thing. And then their defense was flying all over the field. Missouri defense was just flying everywhere, shutting every wide receiver, running back down. They made Georgia earn that win. It was either you're going to earn this win or you're going to lose it. They made Georgia go down to the deepest part of their gut to get that game. And, all right. And then when Georgia played Auburn, they manhandled Auburn. Same thing with Vanderbilt. They manhandled Vanderbilt. And I know the game said it was 42-20. Georgia played with their fool at this point. They got bored, and then they came back and they just ended the game with Florida. Georgia at number 3, in my opinion, I'm not really surprised. I would, and I'm a Georgia fan, I will put them at number 3. The only really big win they have over ranked team is Oregon. And Oregon right now is ranked number 8. All right. And congratulations, Georgia. I'm a big time Georgia fan. A lot of folks that know me know I'm a big time Georgia fan. But putting Georgia at number 3 is right. Let's see more what you can do. Beat Tennessee this weekend, and you're gonna definitely skyrocket to number 1. Georgia's gonna be right back to number 1. And if you know Kirby Smart is looking at them, telling them, "Look, who cares where you at? You're 0-0. You haven't won a game yet. Go prove it. This is a game they're gonna have to prove it. You're gonna have to prove that you're worthy of being in the top 4, and you're the better team in the country." You know what I'm saying? Georgia has a lot they got to prove. I mean, hell, Stetson Bennett has a lot he needs to prove. He didn't do good against the Florida game when he played. 2 interceptions. One wasn't his fault, but the other one, I don't know what he was looking at. He was just trying to be fancy with it. Sometimes he second guess if he wants to run on the RPOs or don't run. The defense gets a little slack, especially the secondary. You can't get slack against Tennessee. You can't get complacent when you start playing Tennessee, and that's what they did. They get complacent, and they give up those bum plays, and then they circle the wagons around, and they be like, "Hey, we need to focus." Sometimes they get outran, and you're gonna have those blow up games. But this is the game where Georgia is gonna have to prove themselves to the country and to the world, and even to Tennessee, that we belong at number 1, not you. And I don't see nothing wrong with Georgia being at number 3. You should be at number 3. Prove it. Beat Tennessee, and you're still where you're at. But Georgia coming at number 3, especially with the games they did. But Georgia still looks good, man. The offenses look good. The defense is looking good. The defense isn't what we seen last year, but that defense is top notch where they at. So kudos to Georgia. But let's move into number 2. All right. So the number 2 team, Ohio State. What's up, Bobby?
Okay, yeah.
What's up? But real quick before we got Bobby here, so we're gonna dive in some more, and then we're gonna go into college football week 9 predictions. But again, Ohio State coming in number 2. I don't see nothing wrong with Ohio State coming in number 2. I know a lot of Ohio State fans would love for them to be number 1, but you haven't really proved a lot. All right, you haven't really proved a lot. I mean, you had a struggle back and forth with Notre Dame, and you pretty much blew all your other teams out the park, and that was pretty much it. And then the last one you played was Penn State, and you pretty much manhandled Penn State. They got kind of tight. You didn't manhandle like everybody expected, but it was a tight game, 44-31. If you watch the game, it was tight. It was tight going into the third quarter. And congratulations to Ohio State defense. That's why that is a great hire that Ryan Day did of Jim Knowles, pulling him from Oklahoma State. Because you see Oklahoma State defense now compared to what it was with Jim Knowles, and then you see what Jim Knowles is doing at Ohio State. Ohio State's defense is starting to wake up. This is scary, and I don't give a shit what nobody says. This is very scary, and this is very concerning. Ohio's defense is starting to get back to what they were. That's concerning. If Ohio State's defense continues to get better and continues to prove each week, start shutting down teams more often with that offense, and that offense gets back on track, which they're back on track is not the same as if I say Georgia needs to get back on track, or if I say Ole Miss get Ohio State's getting back on track, meaning is let's execute even higher at a level, because they can still execute and hit you over the head with those wide receivers and tight ends. And we saw what the tight ends were doing this past week against Penn State, making them look like, mashed potato food. Ohio State is very dangerous. Y'all got to understand, mind you, Ohio State is very dangerous. Their next game is at Northwest, which Northwest is a garbage. The only game Northwest won was against Nebraska, and that was all the way in Ireland. And that was the only game that Northwest won. They haven't done nothing else. In Nebraska, we already know what their story. They fired their head coach halfway through the season, and Nebraska won the next 2 games after that, and then took another nosedive. So Nebraska's done. Northwest done. But Ohio State at this point, Ohio State's last 4 games, their next 3 games are easy. The biggest challenge for Ohio State is going to be Michigan. Michigan's going to be the biggest challenge for Ohio State. If Ohio State continues to go undefeated and they go 11-1 playing against Michigan, and the Michigan goes 11-1 playing against Ohio State, that is going to be another big matchup. Just like you got the big matchup with Georgia and Tennessee this weekend, that one's going to be a big one, and that one's also going to determine who's going to get into the playoff as well. This is getting exciting. And then the last but not least, Tennessee coming at number 1. Me personally, congratulations, Tennessee. You earned it. You deserve it. All right, there's nothing you can't really knock on Tennessee. I know their defense is not the best in the world, but Tennessee is still good. Tennessee has been doing very well. I still have a lot of questions for Tennessee. They struggled definitely against Pitt, went into overtime against Pitt, and if we all know what Pitt is, it's a pretty bad. It's a dumpster. It's a trash. It's not good. Even with Kenny Slovers that came from USC, and it was a big talk about Kenny Slovers coming from USC to do some big things. He hasn't done nothing. He hasn't done nothing at all. He's done. Against Akron, they did a thing against Florida. And this is another thing. When they started playing some teams that got some very good talent, they started relying on those big plays. That's what's going to be a big challenge for Tennessee is be careful relying on those big plays because you got Georgia, and Georgia's defense is built to destroy big plays. If y'all haven't watched what Kirby Smart did after that LSU game, when we got our heads knocked off against LSU in that SEC championship, Kirby Smart started recruiting tall, fast, physical corners and linebackers that can run with running backs and that can run with tight ends. Same thing with their cornerback. Their quarterbacks have to run with tight ends and keep up with the wide receivers. That's what Georgia's really predicated on is taking away explosive games, limiting them. You might get 1 or 2, but you're not going to get like how Tennessee is getting on everybody, 10, 12. And Tennessee scores fast, which is good, but you got to remember you got 4 quarters. And it's not good when you score fast and the other team does the same thing. Now you win a shootout, and the question is who has the most depth and who has the better stamina. And if you play against a team that has the state of art, things that can keep up with that, it's dangerous. But Tennessee is good. I mean, they struggled against Florida and almost lost against Florida, the same Florida that Georgia just manhandled. They beat LSU. They embarrassed LSU, be honest with that. They beat Alabama, through the goalpost into the river. You probably still find it there. And then they had their way with Kentucky, which everybody was thinking Kentucky might do something, but I think we low-key knew that Kentucky could do nothing. That's what I was saying. If Kentucky starts running that ball and squeezing the air out, Tennessee is in a tough bout. But like I was saying, Tennessee has a top 10 run defense. They can stop the run. They're beefy up front, and they're going to get to them players, and they're very physical. They're nasty physical. Like, they're aggressive. So, kudos to Tennessee being ranked number 1, man. And like I said, I will post I'm going to add it up here for the top 25. You can look at it. We can run through it real fast, matter of fact. So from number 11, you got Ole Miss, UCLA 12, Kansas State at 13, Utah at 14, Penn State at 15, Illinois. Shout out to Illinois. That is a big shout out right there. Illinois under Bellamy. Those folks are 7-1. We're talking about Illinois now. Illinois, yes. They're 7-1. They got a top-ranked defense. I think number 1 or number 2. Illinois is good. North Carolina, Oklahoma State, Tulane, a group of 5 team that made it in. Congratulations. Syracuse, Wake Forest, North Carolina State at 22, Oregon State at 23, Texas at 24, and then UCF at 25. So that was the college football rankings. I really went in depth with that top 10. Congratulations again to Tennessee. You earned it. You deserve it. And do your thing. And next topic we're going to be covering some college football week 9. So, I got Bobby on here, man. And how you feeling, my brother?
Good, man. I'm good. What's going on? I think blessing them with some CFB knowledge, huh?
Oh, yeah, man. Got to hit them with it. So we're going to really get into it, man. Give us a quick minute. We're going to take a quick little break, and then we're going to jump right back in. So we back, get a little break. And then the next topic that we're going to be getting in is college football, week 9 picks. We're going to really just dive into the top teams. I know Bobby's working on getting that pulled up for us, but we're going to really get into the top teams, really see how these top teams are working out, see how this game's going to be. It's going to be a good one. Did you get to see the rankings?
Oh, yeah.
Bobby?
I saw the rankings. I saw them.
One thing I would say, they were disrespectful to Michigan. That's putting Clemson ahead of Michigan is just by far the most disrespectful thing I've seen. I've seen, man, especially with Alabama coming in at number 6. That was just beside me, man. I was surprised with that one, man. There's a lot of teams that shouldn't be up there, but it is what it is. But yeah, we're gonna really dive into it, man, for these week 9 predictions to get this thing rolling. Oh yeah. So if y'all see now, you got a lot of games playing. Ball State at Kent State, Buffalo, Ohio. These are some of the games. These are some of the teams I'm really not gonna really cover, but we'll definitely get into them. But one game that I definitely want to dive into is gonna be that Oregon State at Washington, and that'll be a good one. Oregon State at Washington is definitely gonna be a good one. Yeah. So, Washington always been known for their defense. And Washington had always had good defense. Even with their secondary, they've always put out NFL talent. Falcons drafted one, I want to say in the second or third round. I forgot what's his name? Dufont. I think that was his last name, Dufont. They drafted him, Dufont. But this was going to be a good one because Washington has Michael Penix Jr. Remember, he's a transfer from Indiana, and you remember what he did in that COVID season, lighting up the scoreboard, lighting up the yards. I mean, he was putting up tons of yards and nasty. Everything else is good about him. Washington is good. Washington is a team that you got to be careful with, especially for Oregon State. You're going into Washington, and you really got to be real cautious. You mess around and go in there thinking you're going to just beat up on Washington, Oregon State, you got another thing coming to you, especially with it being at 10:30 at night. That's dangerous. 7:30 at night on their time, but 10:30 at night over here on the East Coast. But that's going to be a real dangerous one, man. Oregon State is still good. Oregon State is good, but I don't know if they're ready for Washington. I smell this one is Oregon State is going to lose to Washington. I see Oregon State losing to Washington. Even the betting line has Washington winning 3.5. I got Washington winning as well. Give me Washington. The score, hell, I don't care. 28-21. Might be lower than that. All right. Ohio State going to Northwest. This is laughable. It's comical. Look, I would say, yeah, it's a trap game, but no, this is not a trap game. Yeah, this is not a trap game. If anybody want to say, any Northwestern football fan would know they're not gonna beat Ohio State. CJ Stroud's having his way. Henderson is running up and down the field. The wide receiver Igbuka is doing this thing. Marvin Harris Jr. is doing this thing. The defense is definitely waking up. TJ did his thing the prior week. I think he had like 6 tackles. Fumble. I think he had an interception. I think he had a fumble for a return. Forced fumble return. He was just all over the field, man. Ohio State is doing good. Ohio State is fine. Like I said, Jim Knowles got that defense cooking, and that defense is about to go to Northwestern and put that game away by as early as possible. That game might be over it starts at 12. It's going to be over at 12:05. I could be wrong, but I'm not seeing nothing coming out of that game good for Northwestern. Yeah. All right, Texas Tech at TCU. I like TCU in this one, man. I don't really see TCU losing it. This TCU just came off a good win. TCU is fine. I know Texas Tech, beat Texas, which is okay. Yeah, you beat Texas. Congratulations, Texas Tech. You beat Texas, but you're not going to beat TCU. You struggled against Baylor, and you struggled against Oklahoma State, and you lost against Kansas State. Those teams right there are the top teams in the Big 12 right now. So you're definitely going to struggle, and you're definitely going to lose to TCU. And I think the spread is very low. What is that, 9.5? Yeah, give me the over. Give me the over. I could be wrong, but give me the over.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, North Carolina going to Virginia. Look, that freshman Drake Mays is having his way this year. I don't know if anybody know who he is, but you need to go figure him out. Drake Mays is doing good. He's better than Sam Howell, and Sam Howell made North Carolina look like the best team, especially that first damn year when he was all over the field. Drake Mays is good, and he's a freshman, and he has that team 7-1. North Carolina defense, secondary is good. Secondary is real good. The defense is fine, and North Carolina is going to continue to do their thing. So they're going to beat Virginia. Knowing North Carolina, they'll play down to their competition, but they'll beat Virginia. All right, Tulane is going to Tulsa. I like Tulane in this one, but they need to be careful going to Tulsa. They definitely need to be very careful going to Tulsa because Tulsa is not the same Tulsa that we saw, doing the shootout with SMU years ago, probably like 3-4 years ago. But Tulane, I'm just telling you, be very careful going to Tulsa. I know you play them at noon, but you go in there with your head up too high, you're going to get embarrassed pretty bad. So Tulane, I like them. They're good. They've been doing good. They're the only group of 5 that's ranked this year. The only group of 5.
Come on, man. We know what we want to get to. Come on. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it. Let's go. All right.
Let's get to it. Come on, man. This is the week, man. Let's get to it.
All right. Let's go. All right. So Georgia versus Tennessee. This one, look, I'm telling y'all, this game right here is going to be the biggest game this whole weekend. There's nothing else that's going to match you. Yes, you got Alabama and LSU playing. Who gives a damn about that game? It's Tennessee traveling to Georgia. And this right here is, and this is where I feel as if, and I think anybody who's doing the betting with Georgia to win, and a lot of big analysts are picking Georgia to win. Some of them picking Tennessee. A lot of them don't think Georgia's secondary can keep up. But this right here is playing perfect to Georgia. The fact that the committee dropped Georgia down, everybody had Georgia ranked number 1, the AP, college football. The fact that the committee said, no, Georgia, you're number 3, you haven't proved anything, is the dangerous thing you can do for Georgia. With them playing at 2:30 or with 2:30 or 1, Central Time, but 3:30 my time Eastern. With them playing at that time, 3:30 Eastern Time, that's perfect. That's perfect timing. It's you're not getting up too early and you're not waiting too late to play. Look, Hendon Hooker is good. I give it to Hendon Hooker. Hendon Hooker is good. And like I say, that Tennessee offense, they score extremely fast. They get to the ball extremely fast. If they run for 5 yards, the running back is getting the ball to the referee's hand, and he's putting it down, and they're going down said hut. It's like that. It's like less than 3 seconds. It's quick. It's immediately. They're not wasting no time. And what makes Tennessee even better is how they change their tempo. 1 minute you get up there, and they're going to go fast. Next thing you know, 3 snaps later, they slow it down, or they get into a huddle. And then they just trick you all up, or they do some sugar huddle and throw you all off balance. Hyatt, man, came out of nowhere. This kid came out of middle of nowhere. Well, I ain't gonna say he came out of nowhere, but this kid is doing his thing. Hyatt is nasty. All right. And I want to point this out, and I think everybody needs to look at stuff. And if you don't know football, then that's on you. The pass starts with the run. If anybody watches football and you know football, the pass starts with the run. The run has to start first. You can't start slinging the ball everywhere if you don't have no run game. If you don't have no run game, you become one-dimensional. And if you only come one-dimensional and you can't run that ball, and the team knows you're going to have to pass it because they know you can't run, they can start scheming up any kind of thing. They can rush you. They can send 6 blitz. They can do whatever they want. That's what makes Tennessee so elite right now, is their run game is good. They might not have these show-stopping running backs, but they have running backs that can shock you. All right? They're going to shock you. And that's what makes Tennessee look so good. Let's transition to Georgia. Georgia is a balanced team, offense and defense. That's why a lot of analysts are picking Georgia, because they're very balanced. Georgia has also been in this position before. A lot of their players, a lot of people don't speak on it, but a lot of their players have been in this position before. Keely Rinke's been in this position before. Christopher Smith been in this position before. Yes, Nolan Smith is not going to be on the field, but you know he's going to be on that sideline watching and coaching up those players. The linebackers has been in this position before. The defensive linesmen, players have been in this position, and this is what they like. This is what you like. This is what you don't want for a Georgia team to know, that they have been told that you're not good enough to be number one. Now they got to go prove it. And if I'm telling y'all now, don't let Georgia go out there and prove it and embarrass Tennessee. I like Georgia in this game. I know Stetson Bennett doesn't get a lot of clap, but one thing I will say about Stetson Bennett is that he doesn't make mistakes too often. Yes, he doesn't have the strongest arm. Yes, he does, like what are you thinking? But Stetson Bennett he knows the game book. He knows it, and I'm not going to say he doesn't make too many mistakes more often, because he actually does. I'm just trying to hype him up. He does make some bonehead mistakes. But what quarterback doesn't? He's not a Bryce Young. Will he ever win the Heisman Trophy? Hell no. He's not at that level. I know it. He knows it. The coaches know it. Hell, the players know it. But you know what he has? He has a team behind him. Stetson Bennett is decent. Then you also got Georgia's run game. They got running backs. Kendall Milton, Kenny McIntosh, Dejon Edwards. They got running backs. This is what's going to be a big challenge for Tennessee, is that, yes, you can stop the run game, but have you seen a run game like Georgia? The reason why Tennessee did so good against Alabama when they shut down that run game, because Alabama doesn't have another running back like Jahmyr Gibbs. He's their only good legitimate running back. He can catch in the backfield and he can run. The problem is he's their only real good legitimate running back that can do that. The problem with Georgia is they got every player that can do that. A lot of players can catch the ball in the backfield and run it. A lot of players can run it in and out throughout the tackles. That's what makes Georgia so dangerous. I like Georgia winning this game. I feel that's going to be closer than what everybody thinks. I don't think this game is going to be what everybody's predicting. You got a lot of Tennessee fans and they're going to just come to Georgia and just blow Georgia at the park. That is not happening. I'm just telling y'all, do not get too conceited, to get too arrogant, because I would hate to see Georgia manhandle Tennessee and then everybody goes, 0 dark 30 and we can't find nobody. I've got people at my job laughing at me, telling me and asking me if I'm ready, because we about to come in there and we're gonna come and tear your goalpost down. Just calm down, everybody. Just relax. This game is going to be better than what you did. This game is going to come down who makes the least amount of mistakes and who can run the ball more efficient. Georgia has the better offense. That's going to be a good game. I like Georgia. I like the line. Yes, sir.
Them tickets, $500. Man, is that like a record for a college game, or?
Nah, that's the cheaper tickets. Those tickets cost more than that. That's just for to get you to come click on it. It's, if you read it, tickets as low as $500.
That's true.
That ain't the cheapest ticket. That's just as low as $500, and that's if those seats are available.
Hold on, real quick. Let's pull it up real quick. This is an important game. I just have to see it.
I like this game, man, and I know, man. Like, I know a lot of people feel as if Georgia doesn't have the offense because they're comparing this Tennessee to LSU. You can't compare that Tennessee to LSU. Remember, Jay and High is the one sole weapon that that's really standing out a lot. LSU, that 2019 LSU, 2018, 2019 LSU, they had Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. They had a lot of weapons.
Hey, this is like World Series tickets.
How much is it?
$4,811. My God.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It says as low as 500. It just said that just to get you to click on it. Them tickets ain't there.
The ticket. That's to be on down there basically at the 50-yard line. Man.
Yeah. And people gonna pay for that.
Oh yeah.
Only the rich can survive at this point.
Oh my, yeah.
That stadium gonna be so. I'm letting you know that now. That stadium is gonna be extremely packed out.
Yeah.
You're gonna see some orange in there, but you're gonna see so much red, so much blood.
Well, I have no reason why not to take the Bulldogs, but I mean, I'm telling you, man, you might see it where Tennessee might get ahead very early. Tennessee might get ahead. Tennessee might go in the second half, leading by 2 touchdowns. The thing is,
introducing the GMC Sierra EV Edition 1 with Ultium battery technology for up to a GM estimated 400 miles of range.
Lord, that was an advertisement courtesy of ESPN. Sorry about that. We're gonna pull it right back up.
Yeah. But like I said, Tennessee might go up early in the half, or Georgia might go up early in the half. But neither team is going to give up. I'm telling you, this is going to be a game. I'm telling you, it's going to come down. Depth is going to play it's going to play a major role in this. Depth is going to play a major role. And trust me, yeah, Tennessee went back and forth with Alabama. And granted, I give them that. But Alabama's not Georgia, and Alabama has not been looking the same. I know everybody talk about, they beat Alabama, but Alabama struggled against Texas. Alabama struggled against Texas A&M. Texas A&M lost to South Carolina. South Carolina got beat by Missouri. Yes, they went. Tennessee went to overtime with Pitt. This is the same Pitt that lost to Georgia Tech that doesn't even have a head coach at home. So we got to be Tennessee went to the wire with Florida. Georgia manhandled Florida, and Florida still kept fighting. Georgia manhandled them. Florida pushed Tennessee. So this is going to be a real good game. I still like Georgia. The number 3 shocked me, but it is what it is. I don't really knock it. I mean, I don't really knock seeing Georgia there at number 3. They only beat one ranked team. If we're just going to solely based off ranks, Tennessee has the best ranks, and they beat a ton of ranked teams. They beat I think about 4 or 5. So if we're going based off rankings, schedule, all right, Tennessee should be number 1. They did their thing. Congratulations. Moving on. Oregon at Colorado.
Hey, you think Peyton Manning's going to be there at the game?
Oh, hell yeah. Everybody's going to be there. Hell, you just might see you're going to see everybody there. Everybody from Georgia players to Tennessee players is going to be there. Everybody's going to be there.
Good game. And before we get to the next one, so before, was this marked on your calendar for one of the big games of the season? Because it couldn't have been.
No, I didn't have it marked as I had this game marked as the potential for us to go to the SEC.
Okay.
To the SEC. I didn't have it marked as Tennessee would be, because I don't think nobody I think we all. So I believe everybody knew that Tennessee was good based off what we saw last year, because they were putting up these kind of numbers last year. It wasn't like exactly, but they were doing. I'm not gonna say numbers. Tennessee was doing the same exact game that they were doing last year. They were doing it. I mean, that whatever they were doing this year, they were doing it last year. The big difference is that they got Jalen Hyatt, who's really stepped up this year, and they really executing at a higher level. Like, all the players have been in this program another year. Now, the crazy part about it is how far can Tennessee go with this? Because the thing is, you got to know, this is what makes it dangerous with Tennessee. And this is why I feel like this is dangerous for them, is they're playing Georgia at this time. It's one thing if they would have played Georgia early in the season. You can catch Georgia off guard. And you can say, all right, Tennessee will win this game. But you're playing Georgia at a later time in a season where they got enough film to work with. And teams and schools like Georgia at their level, they have analysts that watch Tennessee for a very long time throughout the season. And you best believe Georgia has been prepping for Tennessee as a prep for other teams. So when they play Florida, you don't think Georgia prepped for Tennessee? When they play South Carolina, they prepped for Tennessee. When they played Missouri, they prepped for Tennessee. These programs like Georgia and Alabama, Ohio State, they got the depth where they can go to their practice team and have their practice team simulate Tennessee. Well, other programs can't afford to do that. So this is one of those games that is going to come to the wire. This is going to be a game where who makes the least amount of mistakes and how much depth can hold up. Yes, Georgia is injured. They banged up, but they've been banged up all year, and that's a part of sports. Even if Georgia loses game, they're not going to be out of it depends on how Georgia loses game. If Georgia loses game by 3 points, all they're going to do is fall down to number 4.
Woo.
The worst it is, it can be 6. And then if Tennessee ends up playing Alabama again and Alabama beats them, Georgia's right back in it. Yeah.
This is game of the week, man. For real.
Yeah, game of the week.
Yeah.
So moving on, Oregon at Colorado. We're not gonna waste no breath on this. Give me Oregon. I'm not Colorado. It's a dead buffalo. Let's move on. Penn State at Indiana. See, this is the time of season I don't like, is when you start getting these type of games.
Yeah, I'm looking at the next 3 games.
Yeah, like Penn State at Indiana. I think everybody thought not Penn State, Indiana would be better than what they are, but Indiana doesn't have Penix Jr., who's at Washington. They don't have him no more. Indiana only has won one game in the Big Ten. They're 1-4 in the Big Ten. They're done. So Penn State should win. I don't know if they can bounce back after that loss to. They done lost to Michigan and Ohio State, so their shot for the Big Ten championship is done. This right here is going to come down to Penn State can just if James Franklin can convince Indiana players. If James Franklin convinces players to keep playing, because they already lost to Michigan, they got embarrassed by Michigan. They could have beat Ohio State, but they just don't have the talent level like Ohio State does. Now you got to go to Indiana. How much fight do you really have in you? Do you really want to keep playing your heart out just to win, just to go 10-2 and to get invited to a bowl where some of those players are going to opt out and not play anyways?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So that's where it comes down to. But I still think, even if they don't have a lot of players buy into it, they should win. Penn State is good. They got a good coaching staff. James Franklin did good. You got to remember James Franklin, he did come from Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt is terrible. And James Franklin had Vanderbilt winning 9 games a season sometimes. And Vanderbilt's trash. But we'll see what Sean Clifford could do. You never know what you get out of Sean Clifford. He kind of reminds me of Bo Nix. One minute you get this Sean Clifford that shows up until he plays elite teams. So Sean Clifford, he'll show up against Indiana, but he won't show up against, not Indiana. Oh yeah, Indiana, but he won't show up against Ohio State and Michigan because they're just far better. And I think a lot of that just gets to him. I think he just tries to do too much rather than just keep doing what you've been doing all season. But Penn State got a good run game. Singleton, that freshman, I wish we would have got him, but he's good. Michigan State's going to Illinois. Michigan State's going to lose this one. Look, they're losing this. They got smacked around, beat up pretty bad by Michigan. And then I don't know if anybody saw that film, but those Michigan State players jumped that Michigan player. Jumped him.
Yeah.
Jumped the dog out. It was like 5, 6, 7. The number just kept piling up. It went from 3 or 4 players on him to 5, 6, 7, 8. They always just throwing the man against the wall, kicking him in his, they just putting them paws on him.
And then already, right?
Yeah, they all suspended indefinitely. There's no telling how far this might go because they might charge those Michigan State players. Because they beat him up. Now I don't know why he was the only one over there. I don't know what he was doing over there. I don't know what he was looking for, but whatever he went looking for, he found it. I can.
This video was so weird because it's like it wasn't like he was. I thought he was trying to taunt him. Like, yeah. What? It just seemed like he got lost.
Yeah, it's like you on the wrong side of town, buddy. It was.
Oh man, you know what they're saying? Like, you make a wrong turn real quick, and then you.
Oh yeah. He made a wrong turn. He just couldn't react fast enough. He couldn't do a U-turn quick enough. That was that problem. He made the wrong turn and kept driving. He was like, I need to turn around. He was like, well, let me see how I can get through here. And then everything was hell loose. They beat the dog out of him.
That was a wild video.
That was a wild video. It was just, and it was haymakers. It wasn't because when they got done with him, he stood up. He realized he was like, oh yeah. I came to the Lions Den. Yeah, and the walk of shame was serious. Yeah. You saw that walk of shame. It was nothing higher than that. He was embarrassed. Yeah. But I like Illinois, man. Bellamy has this Illinois team doing real good, man. I don't know if anybody knows, but Illinois has been they were terrible for a long time. Now, granted, they haven't really played nobody. I think they had a very boring game when they beat Iowa 9-6. So it was just a field goals day. The field goals kickers got their money's worth today on that game. But Illinois is going to the Big Ten. They're number 1 in their division. They only got 1 loss. That 1 loss only came to let me see if I can remember. Let me see if I can look it up real quick. That 1 loss only came to who was that 1 loss?
Right
Indiana. They had a 1 loss to Indiana. And that was the second game of the season. After that, they've just been playing defense, murder ball. They play defense and they run the ball up and down on you. And that's what Bielema, he's done that. I mean, remember, he was the head coach at Arkansas, and he had that same kind of formula at Arkansas, bully ball. So, how far would that get Illinois? It won't get them far. I mean, they're going to beat Michigan State. They're going to beat Purdue. They might beat Purdue. Then they got to travel to Michigan. I don't see that. I mean, that'd be a good game. If they continue to win out, Illinois can go in that game ranked, number 10, number 12, possibly, playing against Michigan. And if Michigan continues to do what they do, they stay ranked, that'll be a good shoot, a good game. And that'll be a good resume for Michigan. And it'll really be coming down who got the better running team, because neither team is passing the ball around. I can promise you Illinois ain't going to do that. I can just tell you that now. Yeah.
The running game is serious.
Yeah, the running game is serious. So I like Illinois against Michigan State. I think the whole world likes Illinois against Michigan State. Michigan State and Mel Tucker need to figure something out. Mel Tucker need to hurry to figure something out. He done signed that big contract, and now you got this going on, and you're 3-5. You need to figure something out. Because Michigan State can't afford to try to buy him out. So he needs to figure something out. So Oklahoma State at Kansas. I like Oklahoma State. I think Kansas' little story was good. It was a good story. They went 5-0, starting off 5-0, but they were the same way when they was 2006. They were 5-0, and then they turned around and lost all the remaining game for the rest of the season and didn't even go bowling. So I don't know if we have another repeat of Kansas or what they did in 2006 or 2005, whatever that was. They was like 6-0, and then they lost every game after that. And then they ended up going 6-6 bowling for some Cheez-It Bowl or whatever it was. But I like Oklahoma State. Look, they're not going to ask Spencer Sanders to do too much. You saw what happens when you ask Spencer Sanders to do too much; he'll lose you a game. Kansas, they still out. They still don't have the quarterback that originally got them to 5-0. He's out, and since him being out, they've lost 3 games. So this right here just lets you know that quarterback play is not where it's at. The line is at 2.0, so this lets me know that they don't have a lot of confidence in Oklahoma State, which I don't have the same confidence neither. Now I'm kind of really want to think about just make this a coin toss and see who wins, because Oklahoma State has really disappointed. To get blown out 48-0 by Kansas State is a shocker. That's surprising. And Kansas State has been upsetting a lot of people. Adrian Martinez, they got Adrian Martinez looking elite. This guy, he was a transfer from Nebraska. Nebraska is terrible. And Adrian Martinez is looking like the godfather out there at this point. So I still like Kansas. I still like Oklahoma State. You can coin toss it, but give me Oklahoma State. Give me a little bit of over. I don't think it'll be 2 points. I see Oklahoma State win at least by 10. And that's that. Syracuse at Pittsburgh. I like Pitt. I like the pick there. I like line is 3.5. I like Pitt. I think Syracuse is going to have another regression. That loss that they took to Clemson really hurt them. And that loss right there really hurt them because they've lost 2 games in a row. So, yeah, I like Pitt. I think they're going to take another loss. Okay. And Syracuse is going to fall out the rankings because after they took that loss to Clemson, they have not been the same because they let Notre Dame come in there and beat them 41-24. Shouldn't happen. UCF against Memphis. UCF, give me UCF. Gus Malzahn's going to do his thing. Memphis is decent, but Memphis isn't. Give me UCF. Alabama at LSU. Look, I don't know if anybody knows, but playing LSU at night is like a voodoo doll game. You got to be careful. Yeah, like LSU is very dangerous at home. Very dangerous at home, especially at night. They're very dangerous. I don't know what it is, but playing LSU at night on the road, it's just it's freaky, man. There's something about that stadium and whatever it is. I like Alabama. I think Alabama has a better quarterback, which is in Bryce Young. Alabama still has a better players. Running game is even better. Jaheim Gibbs is good. Alabama also has good wide receivers, man. Like, I know we haven't been seeing all those wide receivers like Bolden and, all what Alabama has always produced, like, Jalen Waddles and all those. But Alabama still got some decent wide receivers. On the other hand, LSU has I feel as if LSU has a good defense that can match with Alabama. You know, BJ is good. The secondary is good. Like I said, Burns is good. LSU's going to play. LSU knows what this game means for them. If LSU beats Alabama, they know what this game means for them. This right here keeps them in the running. LSU, you know, I'm still shocked that LSU was ranked number 10, but this right here keeps them in the running. I like LSU a lot, but I don't like them a lot to beat Alabama. Nick Saban's still Nick Saban. Brian Kelly, he still has a lot to work on to beat Nick Saban. And I just really like Alabama winning this game. I like the spread. You can give me that, or you know, you can give me that spread. You know, what's that? 13.5. I like that. I agree with it. There's nothing wrong with it. I think Alabama's definitely going to do their thing, and they're going to do it silently. And I don't think there's going to be a hiccup with it. It might start off a little close. It might go down to the fourth quarter. Who knows? Because Alabama has struggled with everybody at this point. They struggled with Tennessee, struggled with Texas A&M, and they struggled with Texas. Even hell, they struggled with Arkansas. They almost let Arkansas come back and win that game. So they definitely going to struggle with LSU. It's just how much and how long. I don't think it's going to be long. So I like Nick Saban and the Tide, Brian Kelly maybe next year, and we'll see what's going on from there. Texas at Kansas State. I don't know, man. I know the spread is saying Texas, but I'm feeling Kansas State. I'm really feeling Kansas State. I really feel that Kansas State knows this right here is an opportunity. If they win this game, it pretty much keeps them in line for the race for the Big 12 championship. Like these teams are playing for the Big 12 championship. That's what they're playing right now. They're playing for the Big 12 championship. Like you got TCU number 1, Kansas State University is number 2, Oklahoma State number 3. Texas is at number 5. So this right here, this game is important to Kansas State more than it is to Texas. Texas is trying to just come in here and win some games. Kansas State is looking to win, and I feel as if Kansas State is going to win. I think Adrian Martinez is going to do his thing. Quinn Ewers is going to do his thing as well. And I don't know if Kansas State got the secondary that can keep up with Worthy, but we'll find out. I still like Kansas State. I don't know why I'm feeling Kansas State. I know the betting line is taking Texas, but it's 2.5. When I see a betting line 2.5, that's just a coin toss, and that's just really about who's going to be the better team to come out. And I like Kansas, so give me Kansas State for the win here. Give me the points for that too. Clemson at Notre Dame. I would like to say Notre Dame, but Clemson has a better defense. Because look, Clemson doesn't know what offense they're going to do. They don't even know who they want to be their offensive player. They don't know what they want to do. They take DJ out, they put him in. They take him out, they put him in. They take him out, put him in the following week. He plays 3-4 games. They take him back out, put the freshman back in. The next week, DJ starting. It's, make up your mind, whichever one you want. Clemson is fine. That defensive line with Brian Brzee and Otto and Carter and Murphy, they're fine, man. That defense is good. Secondary might not be the best, but that front seven is going to hold it down. They're going to stop the run game. Notre Dame really doesn't have anything to really, go for. I mean, they don't really have an elite quarterback, so it's no more different than what Clemson has going on at this point. But I like Clemson. I agree with the betting line. I agree with the score, 44.5. It's not going to be a high score. It's going to be a low-scoring game, 21, 19, 18, 17, some stupid score around that range. It's not going to be nothing's going to shock the world.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I don't understand how you could drop, go up to 4. And Michigan's going to hold them 4 for the longest, but both undefeated. But actually, Big Ten don't get no respect. They don't get no respect.
Yeah, which is surprising to me that the Big Ten didn't really get a lot more respect, because Illinois has I want to say the number 1 and number 2 defense in the country. They only lost 1 game. Michigan and Ohio State are both undefeated, and they've definitely dominate. I mean, I think the only real game that Ohio State didn't dominate in was against Notre Dame. First game of the season. If you have Notre Dame and Ohio State play again right now, Ohio State will just blow them out the park. That's just the truth. Penn State, yes, they haven't been looking good, but they only lost to 2 good teams who are both ranked 1 and 5. That's Michigan and Ohio State. So Penn State losing to those teams, that's not bad. That's not bad at all. Yeah. So I'm shocked that I'm very shocked at how the Big Ten didn't get a lot of respect, like you said, and I agree with you. They really didn't. They got 4 teams in the ranking: Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, and Illinois, and they don't have a lot of teams in the top ranking, which is very shocking to me. Whereas, and I'm gonna be very honest, as the SEC has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which not all of them been looking that good. Like LSU didn't look good when they played Florida State. They didn't. And then they got their doors blown off when they played Tennessee, which is, crazy.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. I'm very shocked with LSU being ranked as high as they are ranked. Like 10? Nah, a good solid 15. But 10 is high. 10 is high for LSU. That's very high. I just think somebody, called it, the playoff committee say, hey, just look, put them in there. I know a lot of people say, a lot of stuff is SEC bias, and they might be on to something because LSU shouldn't be ranked 10. That's just my opinion. Clemson should be ranked 4, neither. And ACC is just terrible. I mean, before we move any further, like you can look at the ACC, and if you look at their rankings, they only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people ranked, but Syracuse is going to fall off. Wake Forest got their head blown off by Louisville. North Carolina State is they should really only have 3 people ranked, which is North Carolina, Syracuse, and Clemson. And Clemson probably won't be ranked. They won't be in the top 4 if they mess around and keep playing. But looking at Clemson's schedule, they're fine. They're going to continue to move up because they don't have nobody else left on their schedule. Michigan at Rutgers, which Michigan will win it. Coleman's going to have another phenomenal day. JJ McCarthy, I like him, but he's not even going to get his arm warmed up in this game at all. His arm is going to be so nice and ready for the season. It's just going to be ridiculous. Michigan's going to win this game. Coleman's going to do his thing. That man has 14 touchdowns already for the season. He's doing his thing. So I like Michigan to win this game. It's going to be over soon. Long as they're going there flat-footed, but they're going to beat Rutgers. It's Rutgers. I mean, what are we talking about here? Arizona at Utah. Utah need to be careful. Arizona challenged USC, and they're going to challenge Utah. Utah's going to win, but Arizona challenged the hell out of USC, and Utah need to be careful. Now Utah's a little bit more physical than USC, and they've been in more tested games. Florida, some other good games, but Utah needs to be definitely. They need to be careful. I smell a sneaky upset. I ain't gonna say upset, but I smell a sneaky upset. Then you got Wake Forest at North Carolina State. I like Wake Forest, but I don't know. I've lost a lot of confidence in Wake Forest. After losing, they lost bad to Louisville. Very bad. All right. This is the same Louisville that has Scott Satterfield as their head coach who's definitely on a hot seat. He's on a hot seat. He's on the verge of getting fired. He might leave before they fire him. He might take the next big opening job and get the hell on. But yeah, I don't believe Leary is playing for North Carolina State. I think he's still injured right now. So it really comes down to, Wake Forest, they're going to score. It's just they don't have no defense. They can't stop. They can't stop a leaf on the ground that's blowing. They don't have no defense. And North Carolina State has the defense, and that's what's shocking. That's what's the biggest thing, is that North Carolina State has the defense. Yes, Leary is injured, but I don't think that's going to make a difference. But I like North Carolina State. Give me North Carolina State to win, and give me the points for North Carolina State. UCLA against Arizona State. UCLA is going to bounce back very well from this. Arizona State they have an interim head coach. They fired Herm Edwards at the field goal on the touchdown. They fired this man in the touchdown zone. They after the game, he was walking off the field, and the AD and president was on the field, had a talk with him. Next thing you know, the following day, Herm Edwards was let go. So UCLA, this right here is a good bounce back game. It's a good game to get that Oregon Duck dust stuff off them and get them back rolling, get Charbonnet back running, get Dorian Thompson back in the groove of things, and get back on schedule, which they will. And then another red-eye game because it's on the West Coast. California, which is Cal, versus USC. Look, I don't know who's worse, Cal or any other team, but like Cal is Cal, man. I mean, Cal, Bears, whatever they call the Bears, or whatever you want to call them, they're about as bad as UCLA when it comes to fans coming to the stadium. UCLA got that big old Rose Bowl stadium, and no fans come out there. And UCLA is 7-1, and they still can't get fans to fill up the damn stadium. Yeah. Same thing like Cal. It's just, so Cal's going to travel to USC. USC is going to throw that ball up and down the score. I know the thing says it's saying 21 and a half points, but, give me 30 points. I think USC is going to do the thing, but it's going to be a little shootout because USC under Lincoln Riley is still the same USC. It's just another – when Lincoln Riley was at Oklahoma, they didn't have no defense. Lincoln Riley's at USC, they don't have no defense. So you're going to get the same results that you got from Lincoln Riley when he was at USC. No defense. They got the good weapons, Dye that transferred from Oregon. He was a good running back, which still to this day, I don't understand the purpose of transferring from one school where you did so well just to go to another one. You were going to get a high draft pick regardless. He might have had a higher draft pick if he would have stayed at Oregon, but hell, I don't know. He probably just didn't want to play under the new head coach that came in there. And then you got, Caleb Williams, which he's doing his thing out there, looking like Patrick Mahomes, mini out there throwing the ball around. And then you got Jaden Addison, who's doing his thing as usual, keeping up the work. He's a transfer from Pittsburgh, which I bet Pitt at this point is wishing that they had Addison at this point. If they would have had Addison, Pitt would be a different level. They might not be winning a lot of games, but they won't be. You won't have that record what they got right now. They'd have won at least 1 or 2. But that's that for that. That's week 9. That's my prediction. USC is winning to close out the night. And that's pretty much it, man. Bob, you got anything?
No. And I only thing I'm going to say is you continue to follow. Continue to follow the World Series. Game 2 the other day. I'm gonna do game 3. Game 3 was postponed because of inclement weather, rain, and it was almost again today. They're playing right now.
Okay.
They're up 4-0 right now.
Who, the Philly?
Yeah, they're up 4-0. So
7-0.
Oh, 7-0 now?
It's 7-0, bottom of the 5th.
Man, hold on. Let me go ahead and get my. I've been waiting. Let me go ahead and get my. You got a background. Let me get my background over. Wait. There we go. There it is. Let's go. Oh, I'm riding with the Phillies, y'all.
You ride with the Phillies, boy, with the Boston hat on. Boy, they gonna come for your head so quick.
I'm still a Boston fan, but we're talking about the World Series. But nah, man, I don't really have anything else, man. I just continue to follow baseball. I'm gonna drop another video probably tomorrow sometime. I'm gonna definitely record it tonight. So I have some live after the game reaction. So I'm telling you guys, man, the Phillies, man, they are not to be played with. They are not to be played with. I think a lot of people they got wind of them during the playoffs. Yeah. But I think because they were going against the Astros, they was like, "Oh, this is a guaranteed dub." And you don't run through the playoff like they did and just get to the World Series. And they haven't lost at home all year. So this is just Bryce Harper started off with a home run. So hey, but anyway, man, no, I don't have anything else though, man. But that was a good college football topic for sure. Yeah.
And as always, everybody, like, subscribe, comment. We're loving your support. Pretty soon we're gonna be working on some social media platforms, getting some Twitter out there, getting some Facebook, some Instagram rolling. But stay tuned for that, man. And as always, your boy Adrian, Bobby, and we out. Peace.
Peace.